Happy Saturday, everyone. Today's topic is moving to New York City. My experience in New York City, some tips, some tricks, and how did I survive all the way here pretty much on my own on a whim. So about a year and some change ago, I moved to New York City. I was initially in upstate New York, specifically Syracuse, near university where I went to, and it was a great time for the most part. However, the city was absolutely miserable, and I 10 out of 10 do not recommend. I personally am not the biggest fan of small, kind of like flyover cities or off-brand cities, you could say, especially living there. I understand that a lot of people are kind of stuck there for one reason or the other, but I cannot stand them for the life of me. Okay, I was born initially in a small town in Texas, and I've lived in small towns. For instance, when I was in the military, I was stationed in this horrendous town called Fort Sill, Lawson, Oklahoma, an awful place, in a state I will never want to step foot in. Even though my dad's family is from Oklahoma, but I will never want to go back there again. I have no reason to. So I say all this to just provide some color and context, all right? At the time as well, I was dealing with a lot of very, very difficult mental health issues. Recently, or not recently, but at that time, around April of last year, I had my second seizure. I was in the hospital for a few days, and friends checked up on me, stuff like that, but certain family members did not. Anyways, I'm saying all this to provide some color and context, right? Just to illustrate just how difficult it was. It was probably the most difficult, I would say, moment and experience in my life. And I'm only 25. And man, it was so difficult to even do anything. Okay, depression and mental health are very real things. And especially when you live in an environment or you're surrounded by an environment that just adds to your depression and your sadness, it's very, very difficult. All right, it was very difficult for me to even get out of bed, for me to do basic things. For me to even write or drive, it was so hard, but I had to get a U-Haul and with all of my stuff. I had no idea where in New York I was going to live. I was thinking Brooklyn initially, but still, I had no idea of the areas of New York. I visited a few times. However, visiting is not the same as living and not the same as being a local or understanding that perspective. So I was completely new and completely lost. I literally had no one helping me. I had no help whatsoever, and I had to do it on my own, right? It was a very, very difficult journey. From Syracuse to New York City is about 5 hours, right? I did that in 2 days, okay? 2 days, it took me 2 days. I had to continuously stop and just try and just breathe through it. Anxiety and mental health are very real things, and that period of my life was probably the period where I felt it the most intrinsically. I've dealt with a lot of mental health stuff throughout my life, such as, a lot of depression when I was younger, being raised in a very strict household, certain abuses that went on. And then the military, which pretty much is a legal prison, in my opinion. So yeah, a lot. I've been through so much. However, I can confidently say right now, sitting before you guys right now, that I have not known this level of peace, this level of serenity, this level of just calmness in my life that I know now. This is the most peaceful, most wonderful time in my life. It's been so amazing. And I urge anyone watching this, maybe New York City might not be for you. However, moving to another city, especially a big city where there's opportunity, where there are people like you, people who will understand you, whatever profession or job that you want to do, you want to go to college, you want to do this or third, those opportunities are there for you. Oh my God, oh my Lord, what a blessing it is, okay? What a blessing it is to be in a place where you're seen, valued, heard, loved, appreciated for who you are, where you feel like the sky's the limit, the world is your oyster, you can do anything that you possibly want to, and it's just happiness every day. That is priceless. That is priceless and something you cannot put a price on. You cannot pay me enough to trade what I've earned and the position that I'm in right now. It is just such a blessing, and I feel so blessed every day, and I'm so thankful to God, the universe, people who've helped me to reach where I am today. So I say all this background and everything to provide color and context and to just show you guys. I cannot illustrate enough, and I can't express to you guys just how far I've came and just how, just completely different my reality is now versus this time last year. So anyways, I move all the way to New York City. For the first few days, I go back and forth to different hotels, just trying to find apartments. I would suggest if you're moving to New York City or a big city one of the platforms are like subleases, right? So Facebook Marketplace subleases. There's so many of them. There are always places opening up. You can go and view them. You can go and tour them. They usually have pictures and some context, and you really get a feel for the neighborhood, for whatever it is that you want to move. Now, New York City is a huge place, and throughout this video, I'll provide pictures, I'll provide maps to illustrate what I'm trying to say. So you have Manhattan, that's a main island, right? You have Brooklyn, you have Queens. You also have Bronx. That's where the majority of people live, in these areas, right? You also have Jersey, that's right across the river. That's like a 15 minutes train ride. So that's also a very affordable option and very convenient for a lot of people. A lot of people live and work in Jersey City, Union City, that area, because it's super convenient and super easy. I spent maybe a few weeks in Jersey, so I've been there a little bit, but I was in Newark, specifically the Portuguese and Brazilian area, which is a very fantastic and fun cultural epicenter. However, Newark is a shithole. And a lot of places in New Jersey are very difficult, but you can definitely land a nice apartment and have a convenient location to go to work in New York City or to experience New York City. It's not that isolated or that far removed. And so it's a really good option. Some people also live in Staten Island, Long Island. These are usually people who are from here. They're second and third generation Italian Americans, yada yada, and that's kind of where they live, right? A lot of families, a lot of suburban areas are also available, but every borough has a different flavor. And within these boroughs, there are neighborhoods, and neighborhoods bring different flavors. They bring different vibes. They attract different people. My first neighborhood that I ended up living in was Bushwick, and I was doing a sublease from this company called Shirt Easy, a scam company. I'm telling you. A lot of companies are scam companies. If you're a newcomer to the city or you're just passing through, you don't know any better. And so you rent from these people, you pay an exorbitant amount of money, and it is just nuts, okay? So the first place that I was in Bushwick, where I had 5 roommates, I believe. And yeah, we had to share like 2 bathrooms and a kitchen and then a small tiny living room. It was very, very interesting, very, very hectic. I did befriend a lot of my roommates, and we became friends afterwards. However, it was just an insane experience. So initially, I was promised rents that was amounting to around like $700 for the first month, and then I would have a discounted rate for 12-month lease, which would be $1,500. Now this is like very relatively cheap by New York City standards. I know for most cities in America, you can get a nice 1-bedroom apartment for $1,500, even $1,000, depends on where you live. I know back home in Texas, yeah, for $1,000, you would live not very well, right? However, that's not the case here in New York City, and I don't think it's the case in places like LA as well, or maybe London, where you get to pay exorbitant amounts for a small space. And more often than not, if you're gonna pay a little bit less, you're gonna have to have roommates, and you're gonna have to have a bunch of them. And a lot of the times they're gonna be random. You never know what's going on. I personally am not the biggest fan of roommates. I've had a lot of roommates in the past, whether it was the military or college, and usually it's always been a good experience. I get along with anyone. However, certain times or certain people, they're bullshit. Everyone has their bullshit, everyone has their baggage, everyone is fighting, to be in New York. At the time, I was also unemployed, so that also was an added stressor. I had almost no direction in life. I didn't know what was going on. I initially moved here, I wanted to pursue modeling, right? And I still think that's something that can be in the cards. However, unfortunately, I'm not a 6 foot and above king, and I'm not white. So those two things made it quite difficult, and I ended up being scammed. This agency reached out to me and they were like, "Oh, we would love you, blah blah blah," and I was so overjoyed. I was so excited. I was just like, "Wow, this is really happening for me." So they requested me to pay a deposit of $50, and I didn't hear back from them. So I was scammed. And also, additionally, I was scammed in my rental agreement thing. So initially, it said $700. Then it said, following that month, I'll be paying $1,500 for a 12-month lease, which I was very pleased about. But then come to find out, they were like, "Oh, sorry, actually, there's not a 12-month lease, and it's not going to be $700. Actually, we want you to pay the full price, which would be $1,750. Absolutely insane. I had 5 roommates, okay, and this company employed kind of like young migrant workers, and so they would come in and out doing inspections, or, well, I don't know what the hell they were even doing. So imagine, not only do you have 5 motherfuckers living with you, but you also have random people coming in and out, just like looking through things. Like looking through the fridge or whatever. Insane. And then I had a roommate that showed up about a week before I was scheduled to leave, which was May 1st. and this man was like in his 30s, like 35, whatever. He's such a weird person. He ended up pissing me off so much at one point because, of course, we had shared laundry that was in units, which is also a blessing to have in New York City. Most people will have to go to a laundromat, and every time you have to put like $1 or $2 in it. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Everything in New York is overly expensive and overcharged and taxed. And anyways, he really wanted to do his laundry so bad, I guess, that my clothes were sitting in the dryer for maybe a few minutes. And I was in my room, I come out, and I see him literally dumping my clothes on the floor. Like, who does that, okay? I have had to share laundry with people for all of my years, right? Whether it's military, college, when I lived in the dorms, military, when I lived in the barracks. I'm used to sharing washers and dryers. It's nothing new to me. However, you respectfully can remove people's items, right, out of the dryer and place them on a table or a chair or something. Perhaps if you have time or effort, you can write a little sticky note, hey, these are your clothes. That's just considerate and nice. This is respectful. But this good dude just dumped them on the floor, like they were trash or something. So yes, we ended up having a shout off match or whatever. I was yelling at him and I was telling him like, man, like what are you doing? You're way too old to be acting this way. Like what the fuck is going on? And that was just disrespectful or whatever. But anyways, so I moved from that place and then I was in Jersey for a while. Which was not a fun thing. I had to do it through Airbnb, and it was literally bunk beds in like a dorm room setting. It was not fun at all. It was like a hostel. It was what I could afford at the time. When I moved here, I didn't have that much money. I even had to borrow money from my father, which was not the most fun thing ever to do. I really hate asking people for anything, especially handouts, but it had to be done, and I had to loan some money from him in order to pay for rent and food because I was starving and it was so crazy. I was unemployed. I had almost no direction with my life. I was just barely trying to survive and trying to find an actual place for myself. So that was that chapter. And then afterwards, I went to the Bronx, where I stayed for around 6 months. 6 months. The Bronx is a very treacherous area. I would say of all the boroughs, definitely the most dangerous, the most like treacherous, I would say. However, it's not all bad. A lot of the people who live there are immigrants. It's a very Hispanic area. It's like Hispanic Central. And a lot of them are genuinely good people, However, it is a very dangerous and treacherous place. And there's also the epicenter of homelessness crisis that we have here in New York City. And this might be kind of... Before I would have thought it was shameful, but it's not. It's just facts and it's just reality, and I'm honest. And I want you guys to understand the full picture and understand, who I am and what I've experienced and what I've been through. I did actually end up experiencing homelessness for about like 2 days. I had to stay at a shelter, and it was very scary, and it was very, very difficult. And it's an experience that I would not wish upon anyone. All right, guys, I'm back. I had to adjust for a while there. I have so much more to tell you guys. This is going to probably be one of my longer videos. This is also my first video that I'm making after a long hiatus. It's been a few months. It's been such a long time since I made a video. I had to gather a lot of thoughts, gather a lot of things. I did make a lot of videos last year prior to my kind of mental health break and my move to New York City. However, these videos are going to be different. They're going to be much more varied in different topics. This first video is about my New York City experience. Again, about my apartment experience, about just my life here, and just tips and advice that I can offer in watching this, who is thinking about moving to New York City or moving to any big city for that matter. I think these things can apply to any place. If you're making a big change in your life, you're making a big decision, you're just emerging from maybe a mental health crisis, you're emerging from a crisis of any sort, and you perhaps might be alone. You might have no one to help you out, no one to speak to, no one to hear you out. It's okay, and I understand, and I'm here, okay? It is very difficult, but oftentimes, through very difficult things in life, the other side is so immensely beautiful and peaceful, you cannot even imagine. I cannot even imagine, and I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm so grateful and so thankful for the life and the position and the role that I'm in right now, and just the blessings and everything that I get to experience every single day living here in New York City. It is such a blessing. I prayed for this my whole life. My heart has desired this my whole life, and now I get to finally live it. How blessed is that? And the same thing can happen to you. The same thing can happen to anyone watching this. You have to have faith. You have to be consistent. You have to push through whatever challenges that may arise. We're all going to have challenges in life, and making a big move and big decision such as this I mean, rife with so many challenges and hurdles to move, I would say, through, that is insane. Okay. And this best exemplifies it. This is a tapestry that I just bought. I just received from Amazon. Check my TikTok as well for the full dump. I bought a lot of things, and it's beautiful and it's very interesting. And check out my other social media. I post very interesting content. But anyways, this is a Quranic verse from Surah Al-Sharh, one of my favorite Quranic verses as well, that says, "Verily with hardship comes ease." It's one of my favorite verses ever. It probably is my favorite verse, I would say, because it is 1,000% true, and God has shown it to me time and time again throughout my short life. I've had experiences where, my God, I can't even begin to describe to you how horrific they were. But afterwards, things have been made easy for me. And now I get to live in abundance. I get to live in a space where it's just wonderful. It's phenomenal. Every single day is a blessing and a wonderful experience. So one of my main points that I would like to address and really talk about and offer you guys as advice and as help and as, everything, apartment hunting, okay? You have to have an apartment in New York City. And getting a place is not easy, more often than not. But it's not possible, and it does take perseverance. It takes maybe knowing the right people and stuff like that. So I'm going to lay out my whole experience to you guys, and I'm going to, kind of delve into a lot of the details that really helped me and that I wish that I would have known. And, maybe someone sat me down before I moved and given me this advice. I also have done a lot of research and stuff, especially when I first moved here. I was watching a lot of videos to try and see how other people, especially people my age, have navigated the whole apartment hunting process and everything like that. But even with that being said, it didn't really help me that much. So, you have to really think about what borough you want to live in, what area you want to live in, okay? I would personally, if I could recommend to anyone, I would say Queens or maybe even Brooklyn is a very, very good first option for a first place. I'd recommend a sublease through an online platform or through Facebook Marketplace. There's so many options out there. Sit and scroll your highway and go and see these places. Go and meet these people. Ask about the terms and conditions, right? So you have to have, how much is a lease every month? Is this a rent-controlled apartment? What kind of building is it? Does it have an elevator? Is it a walk-up? A lot of buildings are like a 6th-floor walk-up or something. You don't want that, or like a 10th floor walk-up. Especially when you're moving items and moving things, it would be a disaster. But it might work for you. It might be within your budget. It might be within your range, and you might actually enjoy it. Who knows, right? So those are questions to really, really delve into and think about. And I said before, I would post pictures and different options and stuff. There are so many resources and stuff out there. One of the main things that you have to definitely secure and have are your documents, all right? So for instance, you should be employed. You have to be employed. And if not, you have to have a guarantor, which is someone who pretty much signs and says, hey, if this guy can't, or gal, or they, them, can't make rent, I will take care of it. I am pretty much vouching for this person that they can, take care of the rent and stuff like that. An employment letter would also be amazing. More power to you if you have landed a nice job somewhere, right? Working for Google or Amazon or a consulting company or a marketing agency. Like if you've landed something like that, that would probably be a much better bet. Before you even move, make sure you already have a job landed or lined up. But if you don't, there are other ways you can, have rent. There are Airbnbs, right, where you pay week to week on a weekly basis. Those can add up very quickly and be quite expensive, and you also get what you paid for, which probably would be a small room shared with multiple roommates, and you have to share a bathroom, share a kitchen, very limited resources. And to have a washer and dryer unit is very blessed and very lucky. I have been blessed with that, but unfortunately, a lot of people do not have that. Now, also with these apartments, do you have to pay electric? Do you have to pay water bill? Do you have to pay both? One or the other? The one that I live in currently right now, which is located in Midtown Manhattan, in a beautiful location. As you can see, a beautiful background behind me. I have decorated this place to the gills. This place is so beautiful. It is literally a model apartment. I cannot even shut up about it. I don't pay water bill, but I do pay an energy bill, and it's usually through Con Edison, which is this scummy energy company, but it is what it is, and that's just what you have to pay. So that's on top of your rent, and rents are usually expensive. 1,500 to 2,500 is kind of the range, I would say, that most apartments are, but those are usually apartments that are shared, where you have to have roommates if you're open to that. Also, you could move in with someone if you connect with them. There are so many things that you can do, but to have your own space, it is usually upwards of $3,000. Currently, I pay close to $4,000 for my Midtown apartment, which I know is absolutely expensive. It is crazy. but I've been blessed financially and employment wise and everything to be able to afford this place, and I'm so grateful to God. I'm so thankful. If you can't afford to pay that much, then I 100% suggest having your own space, whether it's a studio or one bedroom. It is so much peace, so much peaceful. You can literally do as you please. You can decorate it as you want. You can have people over if you want. You can do whatever. You can walk around nude. Like you can do anything, right? And it brings so much peace of mind, peace of spirit, sense of quiet, sense of your own place. And I think that's super important. So if you can't afford that, I 100% really recommend that. And also really be mindful of the location that you're in, right? A lot of people, live in like North Brooklyn or certain areas of Manhattan. There are certain neighborhoods that are known for certain things, have certain vibes, and attract certain people. So really be mindful and really, shop around and see where it is that you might think you're a good fit in. And apply. Go to these apartments, go to open houses, apply to apartments, babe, and make sure you have all of your documents, your birth certificates, employment, pay stubs, bank account information, your soul. You really have to have all of these things, and if you're missing one thing, then that just delays the process, and you probably won't even get looked at for the apartments. And also, even when you apply to certain apartments, a lot of them won't even give you a hear back or anything. You have to really follow up. For me, what really helped me was hiring a realtor, right? So I hired a realtor woman. This was after I moved to the Bronx, and I really wanted my own place, and so I asked around, and I got some resources, that resource centers that help people, whether you're a veteran. I'm a veteran myself. Salute, right? But there are also like agencies to help different people. Like if you're LGBTQ or you're queer, there are agencies like that. If you're an immigrant, there are agencies. If you're a woman, if you're a person of color, if you're just new to the city, if you're a college student, like there are so many agencies and groups that specifically target and help certain groups. So make use of those resources because they can really help you out. They might know a thing or two. They might know a person or a realtor who's looking to have you as a tenant, and boom. Yeah, that's how you got your place. You use and maximize whatever resources you can find because it is difficult, especially if you're new here and just like me, didn't have that much money, didn't have any connections, I didn't know anyone here, and I had to do everything on my own. And so all of these agencies really helped me. It helped me in finding a realtor who was so amazing and so kind and so sweet and so patient. She showed me different apartments. We really went and found the right place for me. Like she really, really did her thing, and she really, really, maximized her effort as well. It did take me a few months. It took me maybe like 6 months to finally land my place. There was a lot of back and forth. The management company were so difficult. All right, I presented all my documents multiple times. They were going back and forth. They didn't want me initially because obviously I'm not a man of high net worth. And it was just a lot of back and forth, and really, I literally almost had to beg them, like, take my soul, take my body, whatever. Like, please, I literally had to beg for my place. So if you're prepared to do that, and you have the patience and the time and everything to do all that, 100% recommend. To save yourself money and time and stuff like that, it will be much better if this could be planned beforehand. So by the time you arrive, you won't have to go through all the stuff that I went through. You won't have to face all the challenges and everything that I went through, and it will be a much easier, smoother experience for you. Now, a couple of other things to also keep in mind when you're in New York City. New York City is a very hectic, crazy place. There's so much happening all the time. It's very easy to lose your mind, I would say. I don't think this is a place where I could probably ever get depressed or bored or tired from the city because for me, it's so exciting. There's so much going on. Every day is a new adventure. I feel like Barbie. Every day I wake up and it's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's so fun, right? But it can get a lot sometimes, and also depending on where you live. If you live in an unsafe area like the Bronx or certain parts of Brooklyn or even Queens, good luck to you. Keep your head on the swivel. If you have to be somewhere for a while to save up money, the place that's affordable, then so be it, right? I had to do that for pretty much my whole first year here in New York City. I had to live in places that were decrepit, dangerous, treacherous, trifling, and just difficult, all right? I even experienced homelessness a little bit. I did think I mentioned that before I paused the clip earlier. Yes, I yes, I had to endure that, and it was not fun, and it was miserable. But through resource groups and things like that, I was able to rise out of that. Most people don't, especially veterans, and it's very sad. There are a lot of chronically homeless people who are dealing with very severe mental health issues. I deal with a lot of mental health issues. I'm not medicated or anything. I go to therapy. I'm a very faith-based spiritual person. I go to prayer. I go to church. I go to the mosque. So there are a lot of things that you can do, and prioritize your mental health, prioritize your well-being, prioritize your health in general. There are so many resources, so many things out there, and it's something that is so important, because especially in a place like this, very easy to lose your mind, very easy to go crazy, very easy to just lose your shit, because yes, it's that intense on a daily basis, right? And you never know, right? With like employment and stuff like that, you can just lose your job, and then the next thing you know, you can't make rent, and now you're kicked out. And now guess what? No one cares, right? No one cares. No one's there to help you. So be very mindful of that, and try and find activities and hobbies and things that bring you joy. There are so many museums here. A lot of them are free, especially if you're under 25. I'm 25. You can get into a lot of places for free or pay as you wish. So you can pay $1 or $2, completely fine. So many beautiful parks out there. I'm going to show pictures and stuff. Bryant's Park's one of my favorites. Central Park, Inwood Park. Like, there are so many ones, and it's like oftentimes you're just walking, and then all of a sudden you encounter like an oasis, right? And it's a beautiful park, and it's a beautiful area, and you can sit there and think a little bit. You call or do whatever it is, and your mental health, your mind clears up, and you feel so much better and so much more renewed. That's something that's very beautiful and very rare about New York City. Most American cities don't even have that. Most American cities don't even have any public investments or any public services at all, which is quite sad, and it makes for very ugly cities. Most American cities are dog shit ugly. And so that's what I would recommend. Especially moving here, it can be very stressful, and it's a lot. I know, I've experienced it. I've been there, done that. However, because it's New York City, there is so much out there, and if you're a poor person, or you're facing homelessness, or you're a recent immigrant, there are so many resources that can help you. They can help you secure a job. They can help you secure an apartment. They can help you do language classes. They can help you do education classes. You can develop new skills. There are so many great schools and colleges here as well. When I was in upstate New York in Syracuse, I went to Syracuse University for a while. Unfortunately, I cannot make this shit up even if I tried. My last semester, I had one class that I was in grave danger of failing, and guess what? I failed that class. And now, as a professor, it was an intro to political science. I was a political science major, and I was like, Professor, please, this is the one class I need. Just these 3 credits to graduate. I will do anything, extra credits. I will, if I can retake the exams, if I can retake the assignments, I will do whatever it is. Just please. And she looked me dead in the face and was just like, no, sorry, can't help you. So yes, I ended up failing that class, and I ended up not, getting my undergrad degree, even though I did walk the stage, which I'll show a picture of. And so my education journey was kind of clipped in that sense, and I was so miserable, and I was so sad. And in that moment in time also as well, I was going through a lot of huge mental health things, right? I was so depressed, and I literally had to pull myself out of bed just to go to class, right? And even with that being said, there were plenty of times that I missed class. So, again, at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here, oh yeah, I had an awful professor, it's her fault. No, I simply did not do the work. And actions have consequences, more often than not. Sometimes we don't like those consequences, and I was not too happy, but it is what it is, and I feel like it was an essential part of my story, because that was like the one thing that I was waiting for. That was one thing that was keeping me stuck in Syracuse, right? Was that one thing I had to graduate. And so, when the professor said, oh, nothing I can do, it was a release. And sometimes in life, you have that, right? Perhaps for you or for anyone else, it might be a relationship, right? You were dating someone for years. This is a girlfriend I've been dating for months, for years, whatever. And, just dump me. She just dumped me. Yeah. Well, it's time to move on, buddy. Or, I don't know, my parents, you had a relationship this whole time, and all of a sudden now they won't talk to me, or we had a falling out or something. Yeah. So it's time to move on. This city, is working for me. This school is working for me, and all of a sudden it's not. Yeah. It's time to move on. And it's important to have that discernment and understanding of like, okay, it's okay. I'm not happy. I don't like this thing. This might be a traumatic event or whatever to a circumstance, a ridiculous circumstance, but it's time to move on. It's time to move on. And the Lord tells you that, and you feel it's within you, I would call it having discernment / Holy Spirit. you have to move on. Okay, so that's what it was for me. I had to move on. And I would say around August of last year, I was finally thinking about like, okay, now I'm not really doing shit with my life. I have to at least get my degree. I've worked so hard, so many credits. I've had all this experience. I need to get my degree because that's just what it is. If you want a decent, high-paying job, you have to have a degree. You have to have the qualifications. It's just plain and simple. There is no amount of, whatever hullabaloo you can do to take that away. You have to have a degree. So I was looking, and I was really thinking about like Columbia, CUNY, NYU. However, if I were to transfer all my credits, they would not accept most of them. They would only accept maybe half, and I would have to pretty much start again as a freshman. And there's no way that I was going to do that. Even though I think schools are very, very important, it's not for everyone, of course. However, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of this stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of staying around studying a lot. I don't know. I find some of it a waste of time, but I've grown now, and now I attend Fordham University. I'm now a grad student actually, and I have grown to like actually enjoy and learn. Being in those classes and being in those rooms, like actually enjoying it. It's a great space to also network. All these professors are extremely accomplished, extremely smart. I'm blown away. For instance, here at my current institution, these professors are really, really, really phenomenal, and you can tell that they're passionate and they're educated and they've tried and they actually sit there and they express the course material in a very engaging and nice way, and you can sense their passion, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, that's been my experience, with the education aspect, and I think it's important. If you move here, like that's an important thing. I want to be able to make decent money, and I'm pretty sure you're watching this too. So it's something, Yeah, it's gonna take some time, whatever, but it is what it is. And this time around, I'm attending like the School of Professional and Continuing Studies. That's what I'm using to finish my undergrad, and then I'm gonna do a year of grad school, and it works perfectly for my schedule. It works perfectly for my time, and for someone like me, I usually have like around 3-hour classes. It starts at 6 p.m. usually, or 7. So ample time, I get to work, I get to do whatever I want to do. I can go shopping, I can go get food, I can go to happy hour, I can do whatever it is, and still be able to make it in class. I attend all my classes, I work so hard, and now I literally have a 3.8 GPA, which is the highest GPA I've ever had. When I was an undergrad, I unfortunately did not, undergrad at Syracuse, unfortunately did not try as hard in clinic classes. I didn't take them that seriously, and as such, I had a quite shit GPA. It was like a 2 point something, which with a GPA like that, you can't go to grad school, you can't really do too much, and you kind of look stupid. You paid all that money, which for me, thank God, I have a scholarship because of my time served in the military. But for most people, yeah, you pay so much, and even I had to take out some student loans, and at the very least, you should at least try. You should at least get your money's worth. It's an experience and a journey that most people will never get to even experience. So I'm incredibly grateful and thankful for that. God, this video is so long. All right. Yeah, so lastly, I would say dating, right? Dating-wise is a huge thing, and also events. There are always events going on. Recently, we had the next come in, the next one. We had a new mayor. I got to witness that, our first Muslim mayor, young at that. So phenomenal, such a supporter. I was so incredibly happy when he won because that coincided with me exiting homelessness, right? I was literally on my phone, like watching, the election results. I was so excited. And I think it represents a lot, a lot to our country, a lot to people like me who come from my background, right? I come from a Muslim background, come from a half Middle Eastern background, and more often than not, and I do have dreams of getting into politics one day, and more often than not, you don't see people like us doing politics. You don't see people like us with the level of success and what's the other word? Reach, popularity that he has, and it's just off the strength of him being a genuine nice person. He's smiling pictures, he's helping out immigrants, he's helping out all these niche communities that exist in New York City that makes the city great. They have been oftentimes overlooked. Why? Because they're poor, right? Oftentimes the poor of our city have been overlooked. They've been treated really badly. They don't have access to resources or anything, and he's there really helping them out and actually making a positive change, which I love to see.
Like this guy is just phenomenal and he's on fire, and I'm just so blessed to be part of a city ran by him. A lot of people might not like him, but even so, with our current political climate, you have crazed out politicians and individuals like Laura Loomer who sit and attack, people just off the fact that, he has a Muslim background and he was born in Uganda. Um, all she does is just sit and spit evil and vitriol and stuff, and all he does is smile and be himself. Even Trump did there, and enjoy our mayor. But I think there is beauty and there's a lesson to be held and told that even though you might have a lot of people who are against you or might not like you, might not like your face just for whatever reason, might not like your color, they might not like your name or your background for whatever goddamn reason, and will not shut the fuck up about talking shit about you, but just you being a genuine kind person shines, and that is seen and manifested in our mayor. All he does is smile and does his job in his cute little suits. And there's nothing that anyone can say to take that away from him, or to, they can talk shit, they can, oh, as Muslims, I'll take over. Okay, and that's not happening, and everyone's happy. Everyone loves it. Doesn't matter your background. So that is where I draw inspiration from, and that is who I'd like to be whenever I end up going into politics. Someone who's just genuinely, authentically me. Right? That's why I make these videos. That's why I share these things. That's why I share my story, my background. I'm honest and I'm upfront, and I put everything, to you, the viewer, and to society, into the world. Because we all have our journeys and we all have our struggles, and it's important to talk about these things. Because perhaps someone watching this, you watching this, might watch this and see my journey and say and see that my journey here in New York City has not been perfect. It's been anything short of that. You can watch my journey and you can see the struggles and everything that I've had to go through and everything that I've overcame, and say, wow, if he can do it, then I can do it. And I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can absolutely do it. If you want to move to New York City, you want to move to a big city, you want to start your life, you're going to pursue your passions, you're going to pursue your hobbies, you're going to pursue love, you want to pursue whatever it is. Perhaps you're from a place where you're not accepted for who you are. Perhaps you're in a place where you're downtrodden and treated like shit. I've lived in places like that my whole life. I've been in spaces where, people just don't like me just because of my face, just because of my name. People just don't like me, and people will treat me like shit, and people will degrade me. And I've experienced that. What? Hello? I live in the South. I lived in Saudi Arabia in the 2000s. They're not very welcoming places. They're quite hostile to people who are different. Quite hostile if you're different or you're not conforming, which I just naturally stand out. So I've always been this way. So if that's your experience and that's what you're going through, trust me, it gets better. Trust me, it gets better. Remember the verse in Yisrael, with hardship comes ease. And hardship and challenges only add color and context to your story. They only make you stronger. You surpass these things, you overcome them, and that's about it. People might not see it. People might not give a fuck. Who cares? I'm here for myself, and I'm here to pursue whatever it is that I need to pursue in the best ways possible. And I'm so grateful, and I could not be more blessed and grateful and thankful for it. So if that's going to happen for me, it can happen for you. And I really hope and wish the best for you watching this as well. Oh, that was topic I was talking about, dating. Yes, dating here is so fun. It doesn't matter your orientation or your background or what you like. There are so many flavors and options. You can literally just walk outside and you'll find 10 people who are your type that you never knew were before. So it is fun, it's interesting, and I am so excited. I'm currently in a relationship right now. We'll see how that works out. And it's been beautiful. It's been so phenomenal. And like I said, you walk outside, there are 10 people who are your type. It's so fun. It's so interesting. There were so many events. There was so much going on. Recently we had the Knicks come in. They won. They shut down the whole city for a lot of stuff. I wasn't too much of a fan of that. Our Orange Man, Donald Trump president, came to visit us. Then we had FIFA World Cup, which was so exciting, so amazing, especially seeing the fans from all these different countries and meeting them. Countries that you never heard of, like Cape Verde, that absolutely killed it and delivered an amazing performance. But we had so many teams, so many people coming through. There are concerts all the time. Like this in the city is, Sweden never sleeps, but it's such a phenomenal, fun city. And there's so much there that you can do. And no matter your background, no matter what you've been through, and no matter whatever it is, you can find acceptance, you can find community, you can find love, you can find, realizing yourself, self-confidence. Like the list goes on. The city is your oyster. The city is amazing. The people are so colorful and so amazing and so diverse. The most diverse city in America, probably also on the face of the earth. Maybe London might be more. I don't know. But amazing, okay? I wish you all the best. if you're thinking about moving to New York City, let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any questions, anything you want me to add or expound upon, I'm so excited to share my story, and I really love talking about it because obviously it's my life and it's something that's very special to me, and that I've worked so immensely hard for it. I've been through so much just to be here, and I'm so grateful to God, and I just cannot even. So yes, if you're moving to New York City, definitely do it. But educate yourself a little bit and plan, because it's a big move and it's a big deal. It's not a walk in the park. It's not like any other city. To even get an apartment or get a job or get anything here, you have to both shake it and you have to bounce on it with cream. Okay. So there you have it, everyone. Happy Saturday. Hopefully you got to the end of this video. If you have, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other social medias. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And as always, have a blessed day, everyone. Love you all.